I can get used to this. Position 2 is by far my favorite. It's the sweet spot between cutting speed and quality. Hey there, this is HanDIYman 007, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my honest and comprehensive review on a jigsaw I recently purchased, a Black+Decker variable speed pendulum jigsaw. Specifically, this KS701PE model. It packs 520 watts of power, has a blade speed of up to 3,000 strokes per minute, and each stroke runs a distance of 19 millimeters. At a 90-degree angle, it can cut through wood with a depth of 70 millimeters, aluminum or hard plastic at 15 millimeters, and steel at 5 millimeters. And the sole or shoe plate can be tilted to make 45-degree cuts. This model allows you to change blades without any tool. It has a built-in dust blower that keeps your cut line clear. The cutting speed depends on how hard you press the variable speed switch. And best of all, it has a pendulum action for faster cutting, which I will also test and show you later. It comes with one T-shank blade for wood and two U-shank blades for metal, which tells us that this jigsaw can accommodate both T and U-shank types. And that's as much information the box has to say, and you obviously didn't come here to just look at the box. So, are you excited to open this up and see this jigsaw in action? I know I am. Alright, let's do this. Okay, let's take everything out of the box. By the way, the reason why I purchased a jigsaw is because I have a lot of DIY build projects lined up this year, and most of them involve a lot of wood that I need to cut straight, curved, or rounded, which I won't be able to do using just a handsaw. For example, from this 1-inch thick 8x4 feet marine plywood, I need to cut the pieces I need to build myself an ergonomic home office desk. Then build a proper and circular lid for our water tank, which is already a year overdue. I also plan to build a screen door for the back area of our house, a huge window screen in the mezzanine, a picnic table that can hold an umbrella, a pull-down desk for a sewing machine, floating shelves, and so many more. So this jigsaw better be worth it. At the end of the video, I'll also reveal how much I got it for and where I bought it. Going back, we have all these items that came from the box. This is a customer warranty card, which by the way covers a 1-year home use guarantee for this jigsaw. We have the user manual, which covers 3 jigsaw models, and my model is this last one here. And it is written in 4 languages, which is one good way to tell if a product is genuine. This is a cutting blade, and we have 3 of them. This is the vacuum hose adapter, which I will get back to in a minute. And we have a service center locator for 7 countries in Asia, among which the Philippines is of course included. And now with all of these items checked, let's take our first look at the jigsaw itself. Oh wow! Let's get the first question out of the way. How long is the power cable? It's a little over 2 meters or 6.5 feet. The first thing I noticed though is that it has a Type-C plug or a plug with 2 round pins. So I still had to buy this adapter so I can plug it into a Type-A outlet, one that accepts 2 parallel flat pins. When I lift the jigsaw by its handle, I'm surprised by how it feels so sturdy and how the weight is perfectly balanced at the center. I love how the rubber insulated handle provides a firm grip for either my left hand or right hand, because you wouldn't want a power tool with a blade moving at 3,000 strokes per minute to slip through your fingers, right? The built-in dust blower constantly blasts air forward whenever the machine is in operation. This way, when you are looking down from above, you will always clearly see your cut line. At the rear, we have the dust extraction outlet, where sawdust can be vacuumed out. We simply slide this vacuum nozzle into the hole, and there's really no wrong way to insert it. Then you connect your vacuum hose. This minimizes sawdust flying everywhere when cutting. This model doesn't have an on-off switch. The variable speed trigger is the switch itself. Once you press it, it starts to cut, so keep this in mind. For continuous operation, we press this lock-on button while pressing the variable speed trigger. To release the lock, simply press the trigger again. However, you can only use this lock-on feature when the trigger is fully pressed in, which means that the operation is only available at full speed or 3,000 strokes per minute. This is the blade support roller, and it keeps the saw blade straight while inserted into the blade holder on top. This is the pendulum stroke dial, which has 4 cutting modes, with increasing amounts of pendulum action. Position 0 has no pendulum action, which is ideal for metal and aluminum. Position 1 is for laminates, hardwood, and worktops. Position 2 is for plywood, PVC, and plastics. And position 3 is for softwood and fast cutting. This is the blade guard, which offers some degree of protection in case for some reason you fail to insert a blade properly and lock it in place. Without it, the blade can become a dangerous projectile. This is the shoe plate that you should slide in full contact on the work surface you're cutting. These grooves at the rear is where you are supposed to insert a rip fence or a circle guide, which are optional accessories that you need to purchase separately. These two screws can be loosened to swivel the shoe plate at a 45-degree angle, which allows you to make 45-degree cuts. I'll demonstrate this later. This is the locking lever, and while pushing this away from the shoe plate, we insert the saw blade as far as it will go into the blade holder. Then, release the locking lever. Always wiggle the blade to verify if it is locked in place. Also make sure that the blade body is in between the support rollers. And not to state the obvious, the blade's teeth should always be facing forward. To detach the saw blade, just follow the steps in reverse. Alright, let me put in this saw blade for wood because I'm about ready to test this jigsaw out. Some important reminders though. When using power tools, always wear personal protection equipment like goggles and dust mask. And each time you finish a cut, wait for the saw blade to completely stop moving before setting the jigsaw on its side on a stable surface. Okay, so we're going to test the difference in cutting speed and quality across the jigsaw's 4 cutting modes. On this 2x3-inch lumber, I'm going to cut a cross-section starting with position 0 or no pendulum action, then work myself up to position 1, 2, and 3. This is our first cut at position 0. The first thing I notice is how I can see my cut line very clearly because the dust blower is doing its job. Notice the sawdust flying towards the camera? Surprisingly, the jigsaw is not as loud as I expected. Also, I can barely feel any vibration nor wiggle. The weight of the jigsaw, its rubber handle, and solid shoe plate is giving me the stability I need to keep my cut straight. Note that I'm barely applying any forward force, and all I'm doing is making sure that the shoe plate is in full contact with the wood. I'm just letting the jigsaw do its work. Also note that this is my first time operating a jigsaw, and what I know at this point I have only picked up from reading the user manual and watching tutorial videos. But I can say that compared to using a handsaw, this does not require much effort at all, which is awesome. And that took 42 seconds. Wow, I can see and feel that the cross-section is very smooth and even. I do see some very small ripping on the side, but I think that's more on my inexperience with this tool. And of course, any minor imperfection can be easily smoothed out with sanding. Let's move up to position 1 with pendulum action. Oh wow, the manual wasn't kidding when it said this is for wood. I mean, I can feel the difference in speed. Note that I'm applying the same force as before, but look at how that blade is eating up the wood like crazy. "22 seconds, that's like half the time of our first cut. And the quality of the cross-section isn't that far behind from position 0. Let's move up to position 2. Okay, now I'm holding the handle more firmly because I do feel a bit of a wiggle, but I think I'm still cutting straight. And it feels like cutting through butter this time. See how that blade just rips through the wood? 11 seconds, simply wow. If I needed to cut 4 of these as legs for a table, I'll have all 4 legs in 44 seconds. That's a lot of time and effort saved. It does have a lot more ripping on the edges though, which I think is still easily refined with sanding. Okay, moving up to position 3, the most aggressive pendulum action of them all. A second faster than position 2. With all these cross-sections stacked together, it's now easier to tell that the faster the cut, the less smooth the cut across the material. What I also learned is next time I will cut with the good side of the material facing down, since the rough edges only happen on one side, the side of the blade's upward stroke. Okay, let me try cutting this 1x6-inch lumber with the jigsaw at position 2. Why? Because I want to practice longer cuts. I can get used to this. Position 2 is by far my favorite. It's the sweet spot between cutting speed and quality. Now, let's test the saw blade for metal. And before we continue, a couple of reminders when cutting metal. And these reminders really stood out for me straight from the user manual. First, never use the pendulum action. So what that means is we keep the pendulum stroke dial to position 0. And second, never use a vacuum, because the metal filings will be hot and may cause fire. What I have here is a piece of aluminum tube, and I won't bother timing this since obviously cutting metal takes a lot longer. While I did encounter sudden jittering midway through the cut, I'm still impressed that the edges turned out not as jagged as I expected. With minor filing, this can be easily smoothened out. Okay, this time let's try a 45-degree cut. First, I need to reposition the shoe plate by loosening the two locking screws. However, I'm taking both out all the way for our purposes because I want to show you that this protrusion here is where you are supposed to align either of the 45-degree notches. This is for 0 degrees, and here is for 45 degrees. So let me return the locking plate and screws. And this is how it looks like. Now it's up to you if you want to angle the shoe plate to the left or right. I think it really depends if you're left-handed or right-handed. Then we'll insert the saw blade for wood this time. Okay, we're good. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. I hesitated for a moment there, but I quickly got the hang of it. What's important is to always keep the shoe plate flat on the surface to be as steady as possible. And will you look at that? Simply amazing. I don't think I can ever do this kind of cut using a manual saw. There's one last thing I want to try. Usually, if you want to cut a square or a rectangular hole, you would need to drill pilot holes in the two farthest corners and big enough for the saw blade to fit through. But since the user manual even illustrated that the plunge cut can be done without pilot holes, I'd like to test if it is indeed doable. Will you look at that? Personally, I would still prefer drilling pilot holes, but in case you don't have a drill handy, then making a plunge cut just with the jigsaw is still possible. However, it's always a good idea to cut with the good side of the material facing down, since we are using a saw blade that cuts on an upward stroke. While it was my first time handling a jigsaw, I do know a thing or two about power tools. For one thing, a power tool is only as good as its attachments. So always make it a point to use the right, high-quality saw blades for the job. If you use the wrong blades, then it won't even matter what brand or model of jigsaw you use. Good thing that this one came with high-quality blades for wood and metal. So what are the features that I like about this Black+Decker Jigsaw? The pendulum action that can cut wood in no time. The very minimal vibration and loudness despite its 520 watts of power. The stable cut made possible by its even weight distribution and rubber-insulated handle. The built-in dust blower that keeps my cut line clear. And its ability to accept both T-shank and U-shank saw blades using no tools was a pleasant surprise. What I wish is that for it to come with a hard case, so I can keep the unit, the blades, and other accessories in one easy-to-carry container, rather than just the box. I love the variable speed trigger, but I also wish that it came with a separate on-off switch, so there's very little chance that the trigger be pressed unintentionally that would immediately start the saw blade. So, how much did I get this jigsaw for? I got it from Ace Hardware for 3,499 pesos and 75 cents. Is it worth it? My answer is, I don't know yet. Because the real question here at this point is, will it last long? So, I will make a follow-through video after 6 months of using this. But don't worry, you will see it in action in my upcoming DIY builds that I mentioned at the start of the video. Meantime, I have included links to the Ace Hardware and Black+Decker Facebook pages in the description below. Please do check them out. This is HanDIYman 007. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next videos.